Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining the Q2 release recap for Rental Result. My name is Madeline. I will be hosting, so if there's any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat and I will answer them as we go through the webinar. And our presenter today will be
Yep.
Jimmy,
So,
and then we'll also have Alex here as well to assist with any product questions. So let's get started. I will hand it over to Jimmy, who is our head of customer success here at Rental Result, and he will walk us through the releases from this quarter.
Thank you, Madeline. Good morning, afternoon, good evening, everybody, wherever you're joining us from today. So this is slightly new look review of the quarterly release notes as we start to roll new versions of the product out. So this is actually relating to the Q2 release, so the 6.37 release, which is, if it's not already in your test environment, it definitely will be imminently. So what we're going to do is just pop a spotlight on one or two of the main features which are coming out to your test environments and heads up on some of the more prominent features which we think would be more beneficial to you guys to take a look at. So we've got three things that we're just going to gloss over today. And again, as Madeline mentioned, we'll be happy to take questions at the end, or you can reach out to your CSM at a later date and ask some more questions. We'll be glad to help you with any configuration questions you've got or any feature related questions. So the first one is a feature that will be adding some buttons into the job site portal for delivery and pickup. So this isn't actually in the core standard version of 6.37. It's coming slightly later, but we want to try and get line of sight out to everybody early. The second one is quite an exciting piece. In the core application, this relates to items that you are re-renting in from your preferred vendors. We're going to add the ability into the procurement workflow for you to actually, in a fluid way, be able to purchase that asset from a re-rental contract. So excited about that one. And also another little feature we've added in is the ability for us to default base codes to items. So we can now, against the transaction, be able to set a flag to say we want to track item codes and phase codes down at the item level. So I'll give you a whistle-stop tour of those as well. Madeline, do you want to click to the next slide? So the first one is the job site portal updates for delivery and yard pickup. So essentially this piece is an enhancement to the logistics function and actually to the requisitioning function for job sites as well. Imagine turning up to work and understanding that you need to order something and you need to relay a message across to the equipment facility on how urgent that piece of equipment is. It may be that you're scheduling something that needs to be ordered today, or you need to schedule something to be delivered tomorrow or next week. So we've added the ability for you to create your own delivery slots. So as you can see on the screen there, we've added a new module that says movement slot maintenance. This will allow you to create your own slot time. So you can see on the screen there, we've got different rounds. So round one might be 7 a.m. to 12 lunchtime or mid-morning. You can actually break those down into more manageable size. So I need this early morning, or I need this mid-morning, or I need this mid-afternoon, or I need this by the end of day. So we can actually split it out. And if you just pop to the next screen, Madeline, you should be able to see what that will look like in the job site portal. It looks slightly different in the new realm and the new version of job site portal, but essentially in the requisition page, when you drop something into the shopping cart, you'll have some new buttons there that will say whether this is a pickup or a delivery. And then you can select based on the date, whether you want first delivery, second delivery, or you can change the naming conventions of those drop downs to be something more around the time clock. So it could be, please deliver between 7 a.m. and 11 a.m., or please deliver between 11:01 and 2:01. So you'll have the ability to configure those. And really why we added this feature in the real world, delivery planning starts to break down when customers are not sure of what they need and when they need it. The system doesn't default to a sensible time frame for delivery, so it's kind of left up to best efforts and guesses. And then the dispatching team ends up getting a just deliver it sometime that day. So we want to start being a little bit more clever with the requisitioning and the requests which are coming in from the job site into the equipment facility. We want to make the impact more predictable. We want to reduce the amount of phone calls, exceptions, emails, text messages, and we want to improve the confidence in ETAs. So this is the reason why this particular feature is being added into the workflow. We will obviously take feedback, and I'm happy to take any questions that anyone's got about this particular feature, especially around configuring those workflows in the delivery slot maintenance module that we've added in. We'll pop some details out. It's in the release notes, but if anyone needs any additional support with that, I'll gladly talk through that with anyone on a separate call. But yeah, so that's one of the first pieces that we've added in.
All right. And so now Jimmy's going to share the platform and walk through the other release parts.
All right, then. So I'll just share my screen. Okay, so the second new feature that we've added in the 637 build is the ability for us to be able to purchase an asset from a re-rent PO. So right now, when you re-rent equipment, you may later on decide that you want to own it. So that up until now usually means a manual workflow. So you're finding the old purchase order, or the re-rent contract, you're off renting it, you're bringing, clearing down those existing dispatches. You're then raising a new purchase order. You're having to update assets and hope nothing gets missed in between. So with this, we're trying to make that procurement process a little bit more fluid. So with the purchase re-rent, you can turn the re-rent item into an owned asset. It's literally just a few clicks, and it will go directly into your standard purchasing workflow. So from the purchasing menu on the main launcher, you'll notice at the bottom of that screen, you will have, depending on your geography, mine says purchase re-rent. If you're in the US, yours will say mine says purchase rehire. In the US, it will say purchase re-rent. So if you click on that, and if you open up a new document, we can then do a search up for the specific purchase order. Now, I just move my screen down a little bit. I've got 3 ways of finding it. I can either find it by the vendor account. So if I'm looking for Sunbelt or Atlas Copco, I can do a look up and search by that. I can look by the E-code, or I can look by branch-specific re-rent assets, which are in the system. So I'm just going to go ahead and do a standard search by vendor. So I'll have a look and see what I've got re-rent from the vendor. So there we go. I've got 2 items currently in my fleet from a re-rent, and there's my E-code. So there's my vendor E-code and vendor serial number. So I can say I want to take this one through and purchase it. What the system is going to do is going to ask you to create a transaction for it. So these will just be normal transactions that you've already got configured. So you can say, I'm going to do a purchase order against a contract. Notice there, actually, if you take that out, there's 2 different options for this. So you can just cancel out there again and just open that one up. Just show you the 2 different options. There we go. So I can either decide to put this through to quote, which would take you through to your normal procurement approval processes if you have them configured. So we're not just going to say, actually, we're just going to allow everybody the ability to be able to purchase something from a re-rent. If you wanted to go through your usual approval processes, we can do that. So it goes straight onto the quote. Or if you wanted to allow that and say, no, we don't want to have to go through approvals, we can go straight to a re-rent purchase order. So there is flexibility with this feature. And essentially, you'll just go to the lines tab, and if you've got price rates in the system, you can default it. So if we've got a price for a particular item code, we can default that in, or you can overtype that and manually enter in what the purchase price is for that particular piece of equipment. And then if you need to apply sales tax, we can also apply sales tax in this workflow as well. So we can do that manually. So that feature is there as well. But essentially, yeah, it's literally a few clicks. So we're just saying to the system, I brought this on a re-rent back-to-back re-rent contract. I now want to own it. we've had it on rent for a year. There's no point us continuing to pay Sunbelt for this piece of equipment. We may as well bring it onto our own fleet. We can literally do it within a couple of clicks. So the ability to open up a new transaction, search by E-code, search by vendor number, put in your purchase price, and then all you need to do then is save that document. And then that will go away. And if it's part of the approvals workflow, it will then fall into the normal procurement workflow. And based on the values or based on the hierarchies that you've got set up, it will follow those workflows. And I mean, same with if you don't have the approval set up, then you would just email off the purchase order, and then you would do a goods in from that purchase order and bring the asset into the inventory. And that is that new feature. Again, going over these in quite high level today. So if anyone does have additional questions or would like to look at it in a little bit more detail or have the ability to talk to someone offline one-to-one about this, more than happy to set some time up with anyone that wants to see any of those features. Okay, if there's no questions, we'll move on to the third and final new feature that we're just going to go over today. Okay, so the third and final new feature that we've added into the 6.37 build is the ability for us to default phase codes at the item level. This is a deceptively simple change that we've decided to do in the system, but this could have a huge impact on data quality and reporting. So we speak to a lot of people about how do we reduce clicks? How can we be a little bit more clever at how we are presenting data? How are we capturing data? How do we make sure we're getting the right information? How do we make sure that people are putting the right information into the system? So this feature allows us to configure analysis sets down at the item code level. There's a flag on the transaction. I'll show you that in a moment. So we can default those onto requisitions, rental contracts, sales orders, purchase orders, and we can do it either via the core system or job site portal purchases as well. So I'll walk you through that and just show you what that looks like on some of the screens as well. On top of that, this feature is also available as an upload via the SOAP web services. So if you want to upload item analysis sets en masse to transactions and item codes, we can actually do that via the SOAP web service as well. So this is a fully scalable new feature that's been added in. So, and the bottom line here really is no more missing phase codes, no more trying to, at the end of the month when you're trying to do month end billing, no more trying to find the right codes for things to be booked to that have potentially not been, or, has been missed. It's less manual keying in. It's cleaner analysis. It's much better for you. And there's much more trust within the reporting. So, we've heard a lot of feedback around, a lot of people say, oh, well, I'll just get the basics done and I'll go back in and we'll fill the rest out later. We've got inconsistencies with phase codes across item types. If it's the same phase code that you need to apply to an item for the same type or job, then is there a better way for us to automate that? Well, now there is. So we can actually default those, make them standard that they default rather than actually have the user go in and make a selection. So basically moving that decision upstream, we're doing it in the item setup. We're going to do the right thing by defaulting some of those codes. So the way that looks is, go back to the main screen. So if I go into item transaction and pick one of my transactions, it will be on your goods out transactions. So it will be rental contracts, sales contracts, purchase orders. And you want to go to the analysis tab, and you can see there is a new flag here that says item level analysis. Check that flag to turn it on against that transaction and save that. And then in your item maintenance, so again, against the item, and this is doing it manually. Don't forget, we can do this via a web SOAP. Let's just find an item. So there we go. I'll do it against my roto hammer. Against the analysis sets, we now have line level analysis. So you can set up your line level analysis. I think I set one up earlier. I think it was called 2022. You can put it in as 22. There you go. So my default phase code is 22 for this project, for this item code. Save that away. And then when you log into the RentalResult portal. This may have timed me out, so refresh. Didn't, that's handy. We can search the catalog as we normally would. In fact, I think I did put it against this machine here as well. So just for the sake of time, you can see as we drop down the item into the shopping cart, you can see the default task code. Default coding has actually come through. So whereas before, again, if the operator was logged into the job site portal and they only have one project associated to them, the system defaults to that project because there's nothing else for them to select. You can see that project came in. We can now effectively do the same against the task analysis as well. Default that into the requisition. It won't be for everybody, but it may be for a good portion of people that this might reduce clicks, reduce manual errors, and allow us to start working more around reducing the amount of times we're having to touch things in the system. Actually, while I'm here as well, just in terms of screen real estate, this is the new look job site portal. If anybody hasn't seen it, then you may be thinking, hey, this looks slightly different to what I've got in my current version. So we have been doing some real estate work on the infrastructure, and there is more to come over the next few months. We'll keep you posted on that. But this is now starting to take a little bit more of a more modern look and feel in terms of tiles for the main categories. We've kind of lost the search list down the left-hand side, so we've tucked everything in quite neatly. And then when you drop things into the shopping basket, things start to look a little bit more centralized and a little bit more neater on screen. So if you're looking at this and thinking, hey, this looks different from what I've got now, that's by design. And these modernizations are coming as we roll more versions of the product out over the rest of the year. So that's pretty much it in terms of what I've got to show you. The release notes are available on our knowledge base. So if you don't have them and you can't find them, please reach out to us, reach out to your CSM, and we'll help you find those release notes. If you've got any questions about any of the fixes in the release notes, again, more than happy to support you through that. And we look forward to being able to get 6.37 released into your production environments as early as we possibly can. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jimmy. And thank you, everyone, for attending. And be on the lookout for future webinars for our release recaps. We'll be doing these every quarter. So we'll be sending out some emails on this. They'll be in our newsletter. And we appreciate you joining, and always reach out to your CSMs for any questions. All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.